I saw it. I was like, well, I don't need that, but somebody does. And it's minutes before the trash guy comes, and this is going to end up in the landfill. So why not pick it up and sell it on Facebook Marketplace? But I was like, I am selling a product. I want the least amount of clicks to the final destination, which is the checkout process. I don't need a fancy image of myself. Who cares about me? I just need my product, the price, checkout. Hi, this is the S Factor, and my name is Elaine Mingus. I am a vintage furniture dealer in the Austin, Texas area, and my success factor is making sure that you're making money, because if it's not making money, it's not a business, it's a hobby.
Hello, Elaine. Welcome to the S Factor. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing fabulous, just running around and have 7 kids and sending out emails for vintage furniture drops. So it's just been a crazy morning.
Yes, it must be. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned furniture drop-off, because that is what the episode is about. We're going to be talking about all that. But before that, let's go back a little bit and let's start off with the blog that you had. And it was a very popular blog, had about 50,000 followers or so, but there came a point where you decided to shut it down. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so my blog, after 10 years, had 50,000 followers, which, if you know anything about the blog world, that's actually a pretty small number when you've been working for so long, especially when I started out in like 2005, which was kind of the heyday of blogging. And if you had a blog in 2005, you basically were kind of guaranteed success. It wasn't until 2010 that like making money while blogging was kind of a thing. And I started growing my blog from there kind of exponentially. I had 12 titles on Amazon. I wrote for New York Times bestselling author. So yeah, I mean, it was successful on this end side that looked good, but on paper, I was spending a lot of time, 40 hours a week. You know, I homeschooled my 7 kids. I was up till 4 a.m, making sure I had all the best Pinterest images, everything. But I was only making at the very, very most like $1,000 a month. And that just was not enough money to justify how much time I was spending on that blog. So right before 2020, I kind of had a nail in the coffin moment when I was flown up to New York for this really prestigious interview with this really prestigious company. And I was like, this is it. I've arrived. This is all my journalism and blogging and writing experience has come to this point. And right before Thanksgiving 2019, I got the call that I did not get the job. And it crushed me like I have not been crushed since my boyfriend broke up with me in high school. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. This is not worth it. It is taking too much time and emotional energy. And I just shut it all down right before 2020.
Yep. And I think during our initial conversation, you also said that, you know what, if it's not making you money, then it's probably a hobby. And yeah. I think for a very long time, that's what it was. And it didn't quite materialize in the way you wanted it, right? All right, perfect. So that leads us to what we are going to be talking about more extensively today. So what sort of got you on this path to sort of pick up furniture and resell it on Facebook Marketplace?
So it kind of was just providence, honestly. My family is very large, and so we have not had the chance to take lots of extensive vacations. And we have, for most of my marriage, been on welfare, had food stamps and government assistance, which is, of course, super shameful in a lot of regards, but it just was what it was. And right around, it was August 2019, we kind of had a little bit enough breathing room that we were like, well, let's take a vacation. And we had never flown anywhere as a family or anything. So we decided to take a vacation as cheap as possible. We got some really amazing deals in Hawaii. So it still put us in about $10,000 worth of credit card debt, which we had worked so hard to make sure that we didn't have any credit card debt as a big family. But we, just made that decision, and it kind of just cost us dearly. And so I came back from that vacation, and I like to call it vacation depression, which is pretty normal for anybody that goes on vacation. But when you realize that your family has now acquired $10,000 worth of debt, we had a wonderful vacation. It was just picture perfect. Couldn't have asked for a better, but I just fell into more than just vacation depression. I fell into real depression. And I was just on my bed crying out, like, please, God, send me something. I just need something. And I was driving by a piece of furniture and I thought, that's cool. That's cute. I don't need any furniture. I happened to be redoing my house kind of at the same time, and kind of selling things on Facebook Marketplace and trying to buy stuff with the money that I got back. But I saw it. I was like, well, I don't need that, but somebody does. And it's minutes before the trash guy comes, and this is going to end up in the landfill. So why not pick it up and sell it on Facebook Marketplace? And that's just kind of where it all really started at that moment. So it was kind of just an answer to prayer for my family.
Okay. All right. And this was in 2019, you said, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And obviously then the pandemic hit. So how did that sort of transform your business? Or actually, more importantly, when did you actually realize that this was actually a business?
So it's kind of an amazing story because my family, like I said, we had been on welfare for a good 18 years of our marriage. We've been married about 20 years now. And the time when everybody was really just financially and just job insecurity was rampant. My husband himself, he was a videographer, and he lost his job because during that time, of course, events were completely canceled. And so we really relied heavily on us just being at home and me picking up furniture. And the cool thing is that the pandemic was, as you know, a time when people were like, and now let's redo our house. And the shops were closed. Goodwill and all the thrift stores were closed. So you couldn't go donate your furniture. So you're kind of forced to stick it on the side of the road and hope that somebody picked it up. And like I said before, I was minutes, I would go out at midnight, and on the days, like I would figure out what day the trash was coming for the neighborhoods near me. And I would go the night before. So it was literally like no one else was going to pick it up. They'd had all week to put it out on the side of the curb and have somebody else pick it up for free and actually use it in their own house. So not only was it not being used by the community, it was also going to go to the landfill. And it was just, loads of furniture out. And then because stores were closed, Facebook Marketplace took off, Venmo took off, and I was able to do contactless pickup, collect cash via Venmo, or they would shove cash underneath the mat in my front door, do porch pickup. And it was just, it really couldn't have happened at a better time for my family. And so we got out of, not only did we within 6 months paid off the debt from the trip to Hawaii, but we also paid off braces. I was able to buy groceries in cash. I was able to buy a pop-up camper that I was able to kind of redo during the pandemic when everybody was doing things. And so that I knew that we would be able to take cheaper vacations for our family. So it was just kind of just a perfect storm for our family.
Awesome. And that's great to hear. So I believe you did about 100K in your first year in sales. That is outstanding. So I think for a lot of people, like, I have sold hundreds of things on Facebook Marketplace, on these marketplaces, right? Obviously, majority were stuff that I didn't need anymore, right? Around the house. So I guess when you think about it and you look through sort of like a business lens, right? How do you decide, like, what are the items that you actually want to pick up?
So a little bit. So I can add to the story is that I started picking up stuff on the side of the road, but I don't do that anymore. But the cool thing about stuff on the side of the road is there are things that people thought they needed and bought maybe on a whim, or they didn't think it through, or maybe like it was something that they were like, oh, I liked that once and now I don't. But it was kind of like the stuff on the side of the road had its own kind of purchasing, like a purchaser for you. Like you knew what was going to be like easily bought and easily thrown away. Right. And so it almost allowed me to just go, oh, well, people like this, but they don't always like keep it around. So it's like one of those quick buys. And I priced it at such a good point that, it sold really quickly. So in that regard, like the road kind of chose my stuff. And I always, obviously wanted it in good condition. I would repair it and do all the things. Now, when I started the e-commerce store in 2022, I have to make decisions on what to purchase myself. And so one of the biggest things that I noticed that sold well when I was picking up stuff on the side of the road was dressers. And I think it's kind of a psychology thing, because in our Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok world where everything looks so photographable, we want to recreate that feeling of perfection. But we have junk. We all have junk in our closet and stuff falling out everywhere. And so we need things to hide our junk. So it's kind of like what I kind of thought is that you're selling this dream, and you're selling things that help people achieve that dream of organization and like decluttering. And so when I'm picking out things, I kind of try to think about what will make the customer really live the life that they want to live, that Pinterest, Instagram life. And so it has to be on trend. It has to be something that is useful. And so the things that I pick out now are, I like to do dressers. Big purchases for me are what I really like, because I don't like dealing with a lot of those smaller things. And so couches are really good. And of course, mid-century modern is kind of what I focus on. And so a lot of vintage is what I pick up. And now I'm importing Moroccan rugs and doing that because people really love rugs, and they really love vintage rugs. So because the quality is better. So I'm trying to thinking about making sure that I'm kind of fulfilling a felt need that they want to be organized, but also giving them quality and something that's on trend.
Excellent. That's really good. So basically the business has now transitioned to e-commerce, where you're actually importing things because that's on trend, that has high demand, and you're selling them through your e-commerce store. That's awesome. So initially when you had started, you did minor repairs, as you said. Are you really good with your hands, or is that something you sort of learned as you did stuff?
So I grew up in a family of doers, and they always were doing things around the house. So I learned from a very young age how to fix things. My mom is a farmer's daughter. She spent her childhood straightening out bent nails, because in the Depression, nothing was left unused. And so to spend time with her dad, she would straighten out these bent nails. And so that kind of theory of like making old things new has been really strong in my life. And so I've always been good with my hands and been creative and painted things. But I think being a mom of so many children and being on welfare for so long was kind of the, desperation is the mother of all invention. I had to make do. And so if something broke, I couldn't just go run out to Walmart or on Amazon and buy it. I had to fix it. And of course, with kids, things spill. So I learned really good, really quick how to clean up spills that most people would just chunk it. And so, I've just kind of a little bit of everything from my childhood to my adulthood, and having kids and knowing how to clean up after them has really led me to being good at what I do.
Awesome. So when you first started, and the first few months and so on and so forth, did you actually stage the furniture and take fancy photos, or was it just like regular photos that you would put out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So photos are everything. Staging is everything. And so I would make sure that when I picked stuff up on the side of the road, I would, clean it up, prepare it in the way that it needed to be prepared, maybe touch it up with some paint, whatever, wood glue. And then right now I have this white brick wall, and this is my studio where I work. But when I was first doing it, I just had this tiny little 8-foot by 8-foot by 8-foot square that was right when I walked into my house, and it had a door that was to my bathroom. But it was the only white wall with natural lighting when I opened the door that I had. So I just use that, and I would always stick a potted plant. I love my potted plants. And, just putting a plant on a white wall. They call it Pinterest crack. It's the white wall. And so I would just always make sure that it looked really nice and staged. Put little tchotchkes all around it to make sure it looked like, because you're selling a dream, you're selling a vision. Because people like me that are really creative, like it's easy to have like, oh, I know what looks good or whatever, but not everybody has that. So I can't take that for granted. And I kind of have to give them like, this is what it could look like in your house. And so you're just helping them envision it in their space.
Got it. Okay, perfect. I think that is a great tip for anyone who's looking to do this on a more frequent basis. Perfect. So let's talk about pricing. How do you normally go about setting your prices for these items?
So obviously, when I first started out, I was selling Sterilite containers and Igloo coolers and children's bikes that were, obviously in the trash. So my prices were $20, $40, $10. I mean, just kind of depending on the quality of the item. And then I would look at like what the market could bear, what Facebook was selling it for. And I was like, ooh, that's high. Or things that like, what would I want to buy it for? Somebody that was struggling and would be turning to Facebook Marketplace to buy a kid's bike or to buy used items. And so that's kind of what I did at the beginning. But as I progressed and I've learned the value, not only the value of the piece of furniture, but the value of my time and the value of who I am and what I bring to the table. And so I've slowly increased my prices over time and started, of course, vintage furniture, brings a little bit more money into the game. So I'm looking at other vintage dealers. Still, what can the market bear? And I try to find some sort of balance between the vintage dealers that are like crazy low, that other vintage dealers are buying their stuff and marking it up. And then the ones that are crazy high that, they're also giving items that are just really high quality and that are, they know the names, they know the makers, they know everything about the specific item. And so they're able to charge the prices we see on Cherish or First Dibs of $15,000, $30,000. So.
All right. Perfect. So one of the other things that I want to know right now is about the e-commerce. Tell us about the process that you went through to set up your e-commerce store.
So I was a graphic designer and web designer for 20 years before this. So I had a lot of experience in, creating my own CMS system and then adopting WordPress because it's just one of the best CMS systems out there. And, knowing hand coding and all these things. But it wasn't until probably about 9 years ago that I discovered Shopify. And Shopify, out of all the e-commerce platforms that I tested out, was the easiest, the most accessible, the nicest looking platform out there, and with a good price point. And I just opened the Shopify. I mean, I'd already kind of had that experience to open up a Shopify store for my blog when I was selling t-shirts and stuff like that. And so it was fairly easy. And Shopify is a really easy platform from really the novice to begin on. And I honestly chose the cheapest plan. And I also chose the most simple template, because you can choose different templates and some of them are flashy and have banner images. But I was like, I am selling a product. I want the least amount of clicks to the final destination, which is the checkout process. I don't need a fancy image of myself. Who cares about me? I just need my product, the price, checkout. That's all I need. And so I think that's really done well in what I do because that's all people want. They are used to Amazon. Click, 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 buy, done. They don't need anything super fancy. They just need it streamlined. So that's how I set up my Shopify, and it's worked really well so far.
Excellent. Thank you for that advice. It'll be very helpful for people. On a very final note, any advice for people who are looking to start something similar or, maybe has already started, but is kind of feeling stuck?
Yeah. Feeling stuck is number one, just part of the game. Like there are places where we all feel stuck. That is very normal. So I don't want people to feel like, oh, that that somebody else is doing it better. Comparison robs all joy. So if you're doing something, head down, do it. Stop looking around, stop looking at what everybody else is doing, and kind of find, you can read the things and learn the things, but if you are, part of being stuck is looking at other people. Do the work and just go forward, and confidence. I think confidence is a huge factor that's very desirable to customers. But if you're starting, I also would make sure that you are giving the customer something they actually want, not something you think they want, or I made this awesome thing, look at me. People are selfish. It is about the customer. You are filling a need that they have. They're at home crying in their showers or frustrated because something's not organized in their pantry or whatever it is about something. And you are here going, here is the solution. And when you can say, here is the solution that you actually have that is going to put a smile on your face, it's easier to sell than saying, here's this awesome thing I designed. I'm so cool. And so really making it about the customer, and then also keeping your eyes off the competition, because there is no traffic in your lane. People are unique individuals that bring unique things to the table, and what you have to bring to the table is valuable. So value yourself and just put your head down, keep working.
Excellent. Very good advice indeed. And I definitely resonate with many of the things you said really well, by the way. Okay, perfect. So Elaine, if people wanted to reach out to you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so if you are looking for a speaker for your next event or a podcast guest, you can go to ElaineMingus.com. If you are looking for vintage furniture or Moroccan rugs, new and vintage Moroccan rugs, you can go to 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗪.com. And I'm also at 𝗪vulture on Instagram. 𝗪vulture is kind of a nod to where I came because I used to vulture the curbs. And so you can go there. And I do offer nationwide shipping and then also local Austin shipping to Austin and Houston, Texas.
Okay, awesome. All those links will be in the description below. So if anyone wants to reach out, feel free to do so. Elaine, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate that, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a fun time.